the interwebs to connect all across the fruited plains of America and throughout the world at this point. And sometimes as the week drags on, the interwebs, they get a little bit tired. The week is sort of dragging on. It's like, is it Friday yet? No, it's not. Please start working. Okay, my goodness, there it is, which means we can go ahead and get started. And so let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group. We're located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, we're talking about the insurrection. And we're going to peel this apart because we've been talking a lot about the insurrection. And so we have all these different subdivisions of insurrection inquiry, and we're going to unpack a lot of different facets of it. Of course, we've got Steve Bannon. We've been following the Steve Bannon case for, well, ever now, since it started, because this has been going on since we've been here covering the insurrection, January 6th, the protest. We were there. We were broadcasting live that day. And we've been following it from day one. Well, we're getting really close to the start of a trial, and they had one final pre-trial conference today where they were fleshing out some of the jury questions that are going to go out to jurors starting bright and early on Monday morning. And so we're going to go through some of those questions and do a little bit of the trial prep that we need to do there. But we also have some other things to poke around and attend to. So let's go over to the mind map as usual. Today we're at the j6mindmap.com. If you want to follow along at home, you can do so. But as usual, we're going to the process crimes. Steve Bannon is where we're going to spend our time. You can see we've got a whole slew of things. Oral arguments took place on the 11th. We had the final pre-trial today. We've got trial coming up starting on Monday, and so we'll get into that. We also, though, are going to really spend some time unpacking this new attempt by the media, by the sort of establishment, I'd say, Republicans, Democrats, New York Times, Washington Post, everybody on the J6 committee, everybody who hates Donald Trump. They're creating this new conversation about Ray Epps. Ray Epps, we've talked a lot about here on this channel. A lot. And I got a lot of questions about this fella. Well, the New York Times came out and they got this nice picture of old Ray and his wife there. And they're out there sitting in front of their RV, and essentially they're on the run, the New York Times tells us. That these people are the subjects of outlandish conspiracy theories from people like me and you and the conversations that we've been having here over the last 2 years. So we're going to unpack this because Ray Epps is an Arizona boy. Shout out to Arizona. He used to run or be very highly involved in the Arizona Oath Keepers. And a lot of that sort of just got left out of the New York Times article. But why are they trying to piece this together right now? Well, they know they're losing control of the plot. And so we are going to unpack it. We've got several articles to attend to here. Revolver that really did, I would say the bulk of the heavy lifting on this issue, at least the stuff that we talked about here. They responded to this. Darren J. Beattie, who I think is over at Revolver, he put together this really beautiful Twitter thread that we'll take a look at, and we'll compare and contrast this case, right? Because the New York Times is going to say that this is all, really shameful what's happening to Ray Epps. This is a guy who got sort of interpreted, and he got caught up in a bad situation. And so he should be shown some grace. He should be shown some empathy here and stop saying that he's a Fed. Stop it. Well, we're going to see that, he gets some privileges. He shows up on the FBI's most wanted list and then disappears, while other people like this woman here, Pamela Hemphil, she's on her way to prison. Oh yeah, for not all that much different conduct, all right, as we're going to see. And so we're going to share a little bit about her story today. And then there's updates on this, right? The Secret Service deleted a bunch of text messages right after January 6th, after the oversight officials started requesting them. And all of the evidence just continues to sort of evaporate. Now, that's going to be, that's some of the sort of, you look at this stuff and we've all sort of speculated that there's a lot here. But what's been interesting is that a lot of people on the Democratic side have sort of denied this claim, denied that there was any inside job or any ulterior motive, or maybe there would be people in the federal government who really dislike Donald Trump and would have liked to have seen him step in it, right? Donald Trump is out there. He's causing a lot of problems for everybody. People would really like to make sure he is taken off the playing field. And so what happens? Well, they sort of loosen up security, or don't request the National Guard, or don't respond to Stephen's son's request for more resources, and you just kind of let bad things happen, right? Well, I've had some questions about that. I know you have here. We've talked a lot about this at our locals community. But now we've got some interesting additions. We've got some interesting, can I even say, allies? What? AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh my goodness. She posted this yesterday, right as we were getting off of the show at 8:41 p.m. And we're going to play this video. Before we do, we're going to check out Alex Stein, primetime number 99, always on the grind. But AOC posted this July 13th at 8:41 p.m. Says, remember how there were tons of footage and evidence of officers and others inside on 1/6 supporting the insurrectionists? But then everyone decided it was too politically risky to investigate thoroughly, so they brushed it all under the rug, and now we still have no idea who or what is safe. Okay, she posted this on Twitter. AOC, she doesn't feel safe. Now, she's saying that there was nefarious business, and basically her cognizant abilities lead her to conclude that had the people opened the doors and had the insurrection been successful, Donald Trump would still be in charge of America or something like that. Whereas I'm sort of speculating the opposite, right? I don't think that this was that the ulterior motive here was to insurrect America. I personally think that the ulterior motive was to make Trump and Trump supporters and anybody who was angry at the sort of establishment irrelevant, right? So that they could go on this political prosecution for the next 2 years, as they are doing. So that was my reason. But we have some common ground here. We have some really common ground. AOC is saying that she's basically thinks this was an inside job, right? She's I think even going further than we've ever gone here before. I've had a lot of questions about it, but I've never made the broad accusation that the entire Capitol Hill Police Department was in on it, right? I was more thinking that this was the feds, really. The feds and Ray Epps, not the Capitol Hill Police Department. But okay, if AOC says so, we've got to unpack that as well. And so as you can see, there's a just a saga going on right now. And Alex Stein, primetime number 99, is leading the charge. And honestly, folks, I think this gentleman right here, I think he might have cracked the whole stinking January 6th case, right? This revelation from AOC, where did it come from? This man right here, American hero. Alex Stein, number 99, primetime. He went, he went after AOC a little bit, just to say hello and say, hey, big booty Latina. We're going to play the video. It's going to be very fun. But he starts this series of events, this domino event. And AOC, after this series of events happens, the shell, the facade on the Democratic side of protecting the J6 hearings starts to crack, because even AOC is acknowledging now that it might be an inside job and it may not have ever happened. This may not have been revealed, but for primetime Alex Stein, number 99. So we're going to get into that, and there's all sorts of responses to this, and we've got big booty Latinas and big juicy booties here today. It's going to be just a wild show. So hopefully you're looking forward to it. Now, if you want to be a part of the show, then I'd encourage you to go check out our community at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where they are chatting away over there. B Spec is in the house. Gypsy Muse. Phil in Flyover. Tessa Michelle, shout out. We have Wild Child says, happy Friday Eve, everybody. B Spec is here. Kincaid is here. Facts Matter is here. We got a full house over there. Former LEO is in the house as well, along with Vientikis, who just had a hamburger. Over on Rumble, we got Rick 2020. Donald John Trump is in the house. Hiker 7. K Cell now. Larry number 1. Blue Pian is here, along with Vientikis modding up the fort there. And on YouTube, shout outs to C. Reed, Johnny Irish. We've got members, Jacob, Richard Jack, Stace on the Case, and others. And if you're a member, right, you get to join and get to participate in our morning walk and talks, which we do every day for members, as well as sort of the additional stories and conversations that we have throughout the day. Also want to remind you that during the day, the bulk of my day is spent working with our team at the R&R Law Group to help good people charged with crimes. And so if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona that needs help when facing criminal charges, that's what we do. That's our day job. We have a lot of fun here on this YouTube channel and fighting for the mission out here on the public sphere. But there's a lot of people that need help in the courts, and that's what we do every day at our office. We offer free case evaluations, 480-787-0394, and I'm grateful for your support. But now it is time to get into the content, the program of the day. And as I said, we're going to start here with Ray Epps. Now look at this photograph. Doesn't this look like a nice couple? Oh, they're just so happy and nice. And they're just wondering why they are the subject of all of this inquiry. And so we're going to break this down. Now, to do so, we're just going to go right to the New York Times article. And I want to reference, I didn't have enough time to sort of prepare all of this out today, but the New York Times is really mostly garbage, right? And there's a book that I'm listening to right now. I'm not done with it, but it's called The Gray Lady Winked. And it goes through a history of the New York Times and how wrong they have been on most of the major issues throughout American history. Talking specifically about Adolf, World War II, and how the New York Times was very much in favor of him and sort of defending him at every turn until the very last minute when they could no longer hold out for cover anymore. Same situation with Castro down in Cuba, right? He sort of took over. The New York Times was screaming from the rooftops what a heroic savior this guy is. Turns out, not so good. Okay, so the New York Times is basically historically been wrong, and we often forget that. And there's this very interesting concept called the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, and it's this idea, that if you're reading the New York Times in your domain, okay, so let's say, for example, that you are a pool boy. As I said, I was a pool boy back when, before I went to law school. I cleaned pools before I started building pools, and I decided law school is better fit. But let's say I was doing that, right? And I'm reading an article in the New York Times about testing your pool chemicals. And I know, as a highly trained pool boy, that is wrong, right? That's wrong. However they're doing it's bad modality, it's a bad methodology, whatever. Okay, so I know that the New York Times is tainted with bad information from that one article because I have domain-specific knowledge about it. But then I turn the newspaper page over and I see another article, let's say about foreign policy, or an article not about pools, but it's about, flying an airplane. I don't know anything about flying an airplane. But there's an article in there that talks about how to fly an airplane and blah, blah, blah. And because I don't have any domain-specific knowledge about that airplane, I am now under the belief, under the perception that there is accurate information about flying an airplane. Even though I know in the page before that, there was a bunch of fake garbage information about testing pool water. Okay, so you see the conversation now? Now, so this happens all the time, right? You could open up the New York Times and see how terrible it is at any domain, and then flip to this page, and then suddenly you're supposed to believe this, right? Okay, so here's what the article says. A Trump backer's downfall as the target of the January 6th conspiracy theory. He's the target now. He had nothing to do with this. He happened to fall into it. Ray Epps became the unwitting face of an attempt by pro-Trump forces to promote the baseless idea, I'm going to get so mad at this article, that the FBI was behind the attack on the Capitol. Now he says, up a winding country road in a trailer park half a mile from a cattle ranch lives a man whose life has been ruined by a January 6th conspiracy theory, by probably people just like us. Ray Epps has suffered enormously in the past 10 months as right-wing media figures and Republican politicians, which we've described, Ted Cruz, many of them have called him out, Representative Thomas Massie and others, they say have baselessly described him as a covert government agent who helped instigate the attack last year. Well, there's all sorts of bases for this, right? And so, look, I don't want to we could spend literally like 4 hours on this. I don't want to go through all of it, but here's a quick recap on Ray Epps. Okay, Ray Epps was this guy right here. He was on the FBI's most wanted list. You see this? This came from their post. It was here. He was photograph number 16 down in the bottom left. There he is in the bottom left talking to Ryan Samsel. Ryan Samsel got charged with crimes. Ray Epps didn't. Ray Epps was on the FBI's most wanted list along with Ryan Samsel. Ray Epps, no criminal charges. So the FBI thought that there were pretty serious bases for putting him on this list in the first place, but the New York Times is so incompetent that they can't figure out why that might be. Here's a clip. This was a screenshot that I took from an Oath Keepers event in Arizona. You probably can't see it. It's probably pretty small, but it says, this is an Oath Keepers event that Ray Epps was a part of. We have the photograph of him. There is Ray Epps right there in Scottsdale, Arizona. Shout out Hometown Buffet back in January 28th, whenever this was. Right, many years ago. But this was on the Phoenix's Oath Keepers event. Look who that guy is. That is Stewart Rhodes. Stewart Rhodes got indicted. Stewart Rhodes is facing a criminal prosecution right now. So if that's Ray Epps standing right next to him, he's on the Capitol building screaming at Ryan Samsel. He's partnering with literally Stewart Rhodes, another guy who was indicted for seditious conspiracy. I think there's a basis for this. Am I wrong about this? The source video, we've played the source video many times. Don't need to do it again here. We also have Ray Epps, who is
screaming this outside the Capitol.
Tomorrow.
The night before.
Go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? Tomorrow? I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it. All right. We need to go in.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
To the Capitol.
Monument Hill.
The president is done speaking. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word. All right.
Noted.
Okay, but one more thing.
Yeah, so can we go up there? No?
When we go in,
Are we going to get arrested if we go up there?
When we go in, leave this here. This goes on and on and on. There's many, many, clips like this. There's another one there. We already watched that one. Here's Ray Epps. This was the bagpipes video. Okay, he's marching literally here in Arizona. This was, I think, in Queen Creek. Here's Ray Epps, the big tall guy over here, same guy you saw in the video, and he's marching with Stewart Rhodes. This was in Arizona. Right, marching together, Oath Keepers, right there. And here's another one. He's standing right here, right behind Stewart Rhodes once again, and they're mourning a fallen soldier or whatever. Okay, so they're there, and that's why people think that there is a basis for believing there might be something. This was the actual video where there was Ray Epps and Ryan Samsel. This is from the first breach. This is the first breach on the outside of the Capitol. And so what we can see is that here comes Ray Epps right as this goes up. This is the scene that the FBI flagged him for being wanted. Okay, we're going to see Ryan Samsel come right up here. He's actually right there in the red. He takes his jacket off. Watch Ray Epps just pop right up. Going to come right up right now. There he is. There he is. This is the first breach. There's Ray Epps right there. So, okay, multiple different stories about where Ray Epps is involved in. And now this stupid article, whoever wrote this, what kind of idiot wrote this? Alan Feuer wrote it. He says that it's baseless, okay? Republican politicians have baselessly described him as a covert government agent. Well, he was listed there, I mean, as a wanted individual, and he's not wanted anymore. So, he's been prosecuted, all right, including his old friend, Stewart Rhodes, for seditious conspiracy. So what's the distinguishing factor? Why did Stewart Rhodes get charged, but not Ray Epps? Well, one has to fill in the gaps somehow. And unless the Department of Justice comes out and gives us a declination reason as to why they decided not to charge him, which to my knowledge, they have not done, then the question, of course, or the fill in the blank here is he's a Fed who is there for a reason. Otherwise, why is he not being prosecuted? A lot of other people are being prosecuted. Now, this article goes on. It's a weird thing, right? This is propaganda, in my humble opinion. The New York Times is very good at it, but rarely is it this obvious, right? Rarely have we have a whole literal mind map that connects these pieces together, and they can come out and print this on the front page or wherever they put it on their printed paper, and people are going to believe it. Strangers, apparently people like me or our group of interested viewers, have assailed him as a coward and a traitor and have menacingly cautioned him to sleep with one eye open. He was forced to sell his business and his home in Arizona, fearing for his safety and uncertain future, and his wife moved to a mobile home in the foothills of the Rockies. Okay, so this guy's on the run, camping out, driving around in his RV, right, which looks like a pretty nice RV there, looks pretty new and big. So it goes on. And he says, what for? They crammed all their belongings into shipping containers in a high desert meadow a mile or two away. Why? It's lies. It's all lies. He says, all of this, it's just been hell. Well, that's curious. I wonder if he feels that same way for all the people who he was encouraging to go into the Capitol. Okay. All of those people he was screaming, we're going into the Capitol, right? Are you not responsible for that? What about their hell? What about those people who have been held in solitary confinement, who have been denied their right to trials, who have been denied their right to speedy disclosure of evidence and the same standards of justice that you would see elsewhere? Ray Epps is running around free with his wife in their RVs in the foothills of Arizona. Almost from the moment that a violent mob stormed the Capitol, people were looking for scapegoats. First, they pointed to Antifa, which there is evidence about, as we've already talked about. If you forgot about that story or where that was, I think we covered that. Was it this week? We may have covered it this week. But yeah, we had the Capitol Hill police apparently were actually communicating, or I'm sorry, the FBI was communicating with a confidential human source. This guy, James Aaron Knowles, apparently is the undercover Fed confidential human source who, according to this document that we read some time ago, specifically stated the Proud Boys were not there intending to cause violence at all. Specifically. So he also said cracking Antifa skulls. He was saying they're going to be there to respond to Antifa. And their plan was that they were going to be there to protect their peaceful protesters because they knew, the speculation goes, that Antifa was going to be dressing up to storm the Capitol and sort of make it look like Trump supporters did it. Right. So there is evidence of that. The leftist from the FBI's own documents, okay, from their own confidential human sources, not me making it up from images. Confidential human sources were reporting to the FBI that Antifa was going there and the Proud Boys were going to be there peacefully. The leftist activists, they say they had a history of clashing with Trump. Epps was not just a bystander. He did travel to Washington to go back Trump, and he was taped urging people to go into the Capitol. And he was there himself on the day of the assault. But Enrique Tarrio wasn't there on the day of the assault. He still got charged. But through a series of events that twisted his role, I don't know what that means. Okay, his role is pretty clear. It's on evidence. It's on video. He became the face of the conspiracy theory about the FBI as it spread from the fringes to the mainstream. Obscure media outlets like Revolver News said that he was part of a breach team responsible for setting off the riot at the Capitol, which he was there. He was literally there with Ryan Samsel. The stories about Ray Epps grew more quickly as people on Tucker started calling him out. Eventually, Trump joined the fury. Ted Cruz joined the fury. We talked a lot about it. In a day-long interview, sitting in an air-conditioned recreational vehicle, Robin and his wife, along with their 2 Shih Tzus, Ray Epps described himself as a father and a former Marine and a staunch but a disillusioned conservative whose leaders had betrayed him. He granted the interview on the condition that the location of his new home not be disclosed. Ray Epps said, "I'm at the center of this thing, and it's the biggest farce that's ever been," he said. "It's just not right. The American people are being led down a path. I think it should be criminal." To that end, Mr. Epps and his wife have been searching for a lawyer to help them file a defamation lawsuit. For what? Playing your own videos? File several defamation lawsuits against those who spread false accounts. Okay. Should they end up doing so, they would join a list of other people like Dominions and others who are out there suing everybody. He says the truth needs to come out. While Mr. Epps was a participant in some of the events that unfolded at the Capitol, do you see how they did that? While Mr. Epps was a participant in some of the events that unfolded on January 6th, they just throw it out. Okay? There are 800 people who would like to fall into that category. Was a participant in some of the events. They're being charged as criminal defendants. They're being called insurrectionists, not people who participated in some of the events. The claim that he inspired the Capitol breach was a false plot is solely based on the fact that he's never been arrested. But scores, if not hundreds of people who appear to have committed minor crimes were investigated, but have not been charged or taken into custody. They say, yeah, so they're saying other people also haven't been arrested. Mr. Epps said that he had acted stupidly at times when he and one of his sons took a last-minute trip there, but he said that he managed to avoid arrest because he reached out to the FBI within minutes. He contacted them first. They wanted to speak with him. He called them right away. Within minutes of discovering the agents wanted to speak with him, he's on the phone with them. So therefore, they're like, "Oh, well, that's really nice of you. Thanks for calling us back so quickly." What that means, I guess, is we're not going to charge you with crimes. Thanks for talking to us. I wonder if that same benefit was given to everybody else. You think so? I doubt it. On January 8th, I'm sure there were a lot of people who called the FBI right back. I'm sure there were a lot of people who hired lawyers right away after their name was on a FBI Most Wanted. And I'm guessing that there are a lot of people who contacted the FBI before the FBI even knew who they were in order to resolve these claims. Did those people get charged? Yes or no? I don't know. Nobody knows because we haven't seen any charging decisions or reasons for declinations. There's no policy here. That's why people fill in the gaps. That's why people think that Ray Epps is a Fed. On January 8th, just 2 days after the Capitol was attacked, Epps learned from a family member that the FBI had been issuing a lookout for his name. They put him on the most wanted list. FBI repeatedly had declined to comment on Mr. Epps, but all of this is backed by interviews that have been reviewed by the New York Times, which is a fake garbage website. The interview transcripts show that Mr. Epps told agents he had spent much of his time at the Capitol seeking to calm down other rioters, an assertion supported by multiple video clips. Did you see that? Did you see him saying, don't go into the Capitol? Calm down, everybody. Tomorrow, we're going to have lemonade and have a picnic on the Capitol grounds? No, didn't see that. Heard him screaming, we're going into the Capitol. But the New York Times didn't say that. They said it's supported, right? They mentioned it, but they're saying it's also supported by him responding to calm down. Epps, who questioned the results of the election, was also interviewed twice. One of the moments Epps said he regrets is when the night before the Capitol, he's out there encouraging people to go inside the Capitol. He said what he described, he said it was a form of peaceful protest. So he didn't get charged because that's what he meant, which is nice. A lot of other individuals didn't get that same privilege. The clip has been used to depict Mr. Epps as somebody who encouraged the riot, but then evaded prosecution. The DOJ, Department of Justice, has not publicly addressed its decision not to charge him, obviously, because he's a Fed. And if they did, came out and said, well, he's a Fed. We can't charge him because he's a Fed. But the legal definition of incitement requires that a person's words cause an immediate threat of danger. These people are the worst. Why are they not writing articles defending all of the other J6ers? Why? There were other people screaming things. Are they getting the same defense? Right? They're laying out a literal defense for him. On January 6th, Mr. Epps, believing he could stop the violence, inserted himself into a conflict between the police and members of the pro-Trump mob. He tried to stop it. He can be seen in videos around 1 p.m. that same day accosting a rioter named Ryan Samsel, who I just played the video of. Already started to confront. Mr. Epps tried to intervene and stop him from doing that. Mr. Samsel said the same thing. Mr. Epps says that he regretted sending a violent text to his nephew well after the violence had erupted, in which he discussed how he helped to orchestrate the movements of people leaving the Capitol. He acknowledged, listen to this line, Epps further acknowledged that while he moved past barricades into a restricted area of the Capitol grounds, trespass, that's a criminal trespass right there. Other people have been arrested for this. He did not go into the building itself. The article, this is called COPE, right? This is where they see that this is a bad fact. They say the vast majority of those who did not enter the building or commit additional crimes have not been charged. But what does that sentence tell us? It tells us right there that there were people who did not enter the building. There were people who did the same thing that Ray Epps did who have been charged with crimes. That's what this sentence says. The vast majority of those who did not enter the building have not been charged. Doesn't mean all of them. Okay, so that's not the distinguishing factor. So again, I'm looking for a reason why these other people have been charged and Ray Epps has not been. And until the DOJ or somebody gives us an answer on it, I don't give a crap about Ray Epps' sob story or where he's living in a bungalow somewhere in the hills of Arizona. I don't care. This is more depth is required to figure out what's going on here. By the time the violence started spreading, Epps had already left the Capitol. Problems began after Revolver News posted their article, and things became worse after politicians began piling on. We heard a lot of it. We heard from Ted Cruz and other people. He left Arizona for the mountains months ago. They haven't done much. They managed to spend their time with their children, some of their 37 grandchildren, but they mostly keep to themselves. Mr. Epps has taken to wearing a wide-brimmed hat that hides his face. If people at a gas station look at him, he just smiles back. What a stupid article. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, honestly, that person should be ashamed of themselves, this guy, Alan Feuer. Honestly, it's like one of the most dishonest articles you can ever see. But it's written for a narrative. It's written because this is a gigantic stinking problem for them. The fake January 6th committee knows that America is identifying people like Epps and Tarrio, and they're saying, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. And so we're going to need some more information on this. And so that was the article. Here's Ray Epps and his lovely wife, just innocent Americans who were just good Trump lovers or something. Yeah, right. So Revolver, of course, they got sort of scolded by the New York Times. They published this response, and I'll just show you what it looks like, but I'll encourage you to go read it yourself over there at revolver.news. But they're calling this out very clearly for what it is. The hidden agenda by the New York Times desperate puff piece on Ray Epps, right? Exactly what it is. It's damage control. This committee is in the toilet. Nobody's paying attention to it. And, other than some polls that are leaking out here and there saying that people are sort of getting sour on Trump, right? I'm not so sure I believe that. But even if that is true right now, I think that they're going to be a victim of their own success to some degree. If they lead to an indictment of Donald Trump and his fan base are going to be so agitated that I think he's going to come out ahead at the end of the game. So they tell us over here from Revolver.news, this whole thing is a big scam. Here's a reference to how they orchestrated the movements. So I'd encourage you to go watch, go visit this article if you want to see sort of a very detailed assembly. They've got Ray Epps here. Here's another clip where he sort of...
As soon as President Trump is finished speaking, we are going to the Capitol. It's that direction.
Okay, he's out there literally telling everybody.
President Trump is done speaking. We are going to the Capitol.
Okay, just telling literally everybody, everywhere he goes. So there's a lot of smoke here, and the New York Times just wants to paper over it. And this article just takes you bit by bit through the whole thing. So I encourage you to go check that out. There was also another very good Twitter thread here from Darren J. Beattie, who basically assembled the same thing, and that this is available at j6mindmap.com if you're looking for the links for any of these things. But he says, Ray Epps, the only person caught on repeatedly directing people into the Capitol, is the only January 6th rioter the New York Times has written a puff piece for. Where are the puff pieces for all of the other J6ers? This is the problem. They know Epps is the smoking gun, and it's going to be the beginning of a monumental damage control campaign, which they are in the middle of. And I'm going to show you sort of what I mean on this, because people are now asking questions about collusion and about how all this stuff works. And as we're going to see, when we get down here to AOC, even she thinks that this might be an inside job. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Now, while Ray Epps is out, right, we can do a compare and contrast on this stuff. Ray Epps was out. We all saw the footage of him. Okay, we all saw what he did multiple times, screaming at people, we're going into the Capitol, and so on and so forth. Well, there's a problem here is that there is a different tier of justice for different people. Ray Epps is out of custody. This woman is soon, actually, as of now, she's probably in custody. Jennifer Breeze on Twitter is a music producer. She's a Christian minister. She's the daughter of Pam Hemphil, who is a J6er, who is this woman right here, who is going to prison for 60 days or jail for 60 days. I don't know where she's being housed, but this is the story that's happening. She's here. People are paying attention, right?
You turn the public and show them. And listen, this story with Dinesh and the coverage you got yesterday, people are very upset. They didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
They didn't have any idea how bad it was, Pam.
Well,
and now that they know, it's time to get loud.
You know what happened, David? I went to a prayer group that were supporting January 6th, the ones that are locked up,
That's right.
and I want to pray with them for those people. So what happened, they started praying for me, and then one thing after another happened. They started telling people, and next thing I know, I'm on these. So God did this.
Yeah, so people are paying attention. People don't want this people who sort of look like this woman, typically don't resemble insurrectionists who are going to seize control of a country. She's got to give, send, go. And so I'd go, if you want to go learn more about this woman, this is where to find her, Breeze Jennifer on Twitter. And I think there was more there. Did I clip something else on this? Oh yeah. So here's a little bit more about, this individual. So she got sentenced. This is Pamela Hemphil. This is over from the DOJ website. She's from Boise, Idaho. Pled guilty to certain crimes, arrested August 3rd, pled guilty on January 21st, 2022. So not that long ago. She's got 60 days in jail, 36 months of probation, and $500 of restitution. And let's see what she was charged with here. We've got this one: knowingly entering or remaining on any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority. You see that? That's the same charge, right? That's exactly what Ray Epps did. Literally. That is literally what he did, right? I'm sorry, this one right here. Restricted grounds. Now, this is in a building. This one is disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, okay, which Ray Epps also did. So he could have gotten charged with 2 of those. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building, right? If he didn't go in the building, maybe not that one. Parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. So he didn't, right? So also that. But those other 2 charges would have been perfectly appropriate for him. Now, he's not going to jail. He's not even been arrested or indicted or anything. This woman has 60 days in jail. Ray Epps is in hiding, and the New York Times says he's concerned, very dangerous for him. She's going to jail. So you can see there are 2 different tiers of justice, and it is a horrific and sad thing. Now, as I was going through this, right, I was making the point that it's not just, there's a lot of cover up going on here. New York Times is trying to paper over the Ray Epps saga. The Secret Service, also, this article came out from The Guardian. They're telling us that the Secret Service deleted actually a bunch of text messages. And so this article came out today from Mr. Klippenstein. Here's what he says. The Secret Service, this is over from The Guardian, I believe, The Intercept. Secret Service deleted January 6 text messages after oversight officials requested them. What? A letter given to the January 6 committee says the erasure took place shortly after the oversight officials requested the electronic communications. More deleting of evidence. The Secret Service erased text messages from the January 5th and January 6th days, according to a letter given to the J6 committee and reviewed by The Intercept. The letter was originally sent to the Department of Homeland Security, Office of the Inspector General, though the Secret Service maintains that the text messages were lost as a result of, get this, quote, a device replacement program. A device replacement. They got new iPhones over there. So don't you hate that? All your government text messages from everything on those 2 very critical days just gone with the wind. Deleted. Device replacement program. January 6th happened. Somebody over there at the Secret Service is like, it's probably time to replace our cell phones. Don't you think? They're like, yeah, good call. We're just replace them all. Yeah, that sounds good. The letter says the erasure took place shortly after oversight officials requested the agency's electronic communications. The Secret Service did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Secret Service has emerged as a key player in this whole thing. Well, obviously, I'm not getting in the car, according to Pence, and the list. The whole thing goes on and on. But the point of this story, of course, is okay, so who knows what Ray Epps is? The Secret Service doesn't even know who Ray Epps is because they got new cell phones, apparently. So, okay. Wow. Well, that is the Ray Epps saga. And now, my friends, there is consequences of this. Okay, so while the New York Times is trying to paper over this whole thing, there are actual people being prosecuted. We learned that Pamela Hemphil is going to jail on this. We also know, she was there on January 6th as part of the protests. But other people were not there at all, right? Steve Bannon was not there at all, had nothing to do with it. In fact, he was a podcaster who was using his free speech to communicate and do whatever he wants to do freely as an American. But because we have a fake illegal committee, and let me remind ourselves why this committee is so illegal. I still haven't heard a good rebuttal to this, and there is an open invitation to please prove me wrong. I would love it. But here, H.R. 503 has been passed by the House of Representatives. This is the document that gives them authority. This is like the Constitution that gives birth to America. This gives birth to the committee. Well, the problem with this is that in the document, it says under composition, after it is established, that it says the Speaker shall appoint 13 members to the committee. Shall means mandatory. It's not discretionary. 5 of whom shall be appointed by the Republican officials. And none of that happened. Okay, we don't have 13. We don't have 5 of whom are Republicans. This is a representative body in the House of Representatives. It's not representative. They're in violation of their own rules. It's a fake garbage committee regardless. But they are still prosecuting crimes because they control 2 levers of power, both the congressional branch, the legislative branch, as well as the executive branch. So they control the DOJ as well as their fake little pseudo grand jury called the January 6th committee. And so after they got control of all of this, what they have done is instituted 2 types of prosecutions. One, of course, are the J6 crimes. We just talked about that with Ray Epps. He should have been charged if he wasn't a Fed. Of course he is. So he is going to escape criminal liability for whatever reason. We still haven't gotten any evidence about that. But there are also these process crimes. And process crimes are different. Right? Bannon wasn't there. He just got a subpoena to show up and they wanted him to answer all their questions and play their stupid dance. And he didn't do that. And so now what they're saying is that's illegal. You're a criminal and we're going to prosecute you. So we've been following this along for some time. The investigation took place quite a while ago. Back in 9/23 last year in September, he got a subpoena and we've been following it ever since. And now Bannon is scheduled for trial starting bright and early on Monday with jury selection. We talked about the oral arguments that took place on Tuesday. Over the weekend, there was some, actually, I think that was on Monday. Over the weekend, there was a very sort of explosive revelation that Donald Trump was revoking his demand of executive privilege. And that gave Bannon the authority to go out and testify now. And so that kind of jolted the whole trial, because if Bannon testifies, he's being prosecuted for not testifying. So if he goes and testifies, is there still a continual crime? Right? Is he still actually breaking the law? The government said, yes, you are, because the law was broken on that day when you didn't show up. You were supposed to come at 5 o'clock. You didn't. Crime. And Bannon now is saying, well, look, if you're not going to sort of dismiss my case for any of the reasons I've filed a request for dismissal, I'm asking for a continuance of the trial. And this is their third attempt to continue the trial. Bannon testifying didn't change the game. The committee conducting its hearings didn't change the game. But today, or actually last night, we got a new filing. This is the court docket as it looks from the federal court website. It's called Pacer. Here on 7/13, we saw that there was another motion to continue. It's actually a renewed motion to continue. So it's sort of saying, look, I asked for an extension previously. This is being filed by David Schoen, who is Bannon's lawyer. And Bannon's lawyer is saying, we can't have a trial right now. This is not going to be fair. You have a fake committee who's conducting these national hearings, and they're rubbing our client's face in the mud every step of the way. How can we have a fair trial for our client when all of this is going on? And remember, we're in Washington, D.C., the D.C. Circuit Court, which is right where it's next door, basically, to where these Capitol Committee hearings are taking place. So it seems like, it may not be fair. So the defense, Bannon's defense, they filed multiple times to try to postpone this trial, to continue it is what we call it. And the judge has said no twice, right? And this is one of the most sort of important things judges do, is sort of manage the calendar and make sure cases move forward. But when you see stories like this, judges don't want to push trials on, right? They just don't. They want their cases to move. But you start to ask yourselves about this. Like, this is outside of the ordinary. Why is the judge so sort of caught up on this one? There literally is a national trial going on that Steve Bannon is the subject of, as we're going to see. But the point is, Steve Bannon and his defense, they filed another motion for a continuance. They renewed it again. Let's not have trial start on Monday. And there were some other motions that came out. We got a minute order. It looks like Steve Bannon is bringing on another lawyer, pro hoc vice, which means sort of out of state, coming in to support him. Her name, I believe, is here. Rihanna A. White. Looks like they're filing in here. And so that's about it. Now, so I want to show you two things. One is going to be an actual quick look at that motion to continue. Okay, Steve Bannon is making the argument that he cannot get a fair trial. And I agree with this, right? I'm a defense attorney. I think this is kind of insane. But I thought that even, the Derek Chauvin and a lot of those trials were insane. I think that, these are essentially becoming public show trials in many ways. And I have a huge problem with that, because it's not supposed to be that way. And of course, if it becomes a once that precedent starts to become established, I think it's going to be very difficult to unring that bell. And that really is a scary thing. So here's what we've got. Here is the renewed motion to continue the trial due to pre-trial publicity. Bannon's lawyers are saying, Judge, they are dunking on Steve every day over there. We can't have a fair shake here. It says on June 29th, Bannon filed a motion to continue the trial. We said back then that this was prejudicial towards our client. And now we're coming closer to the trial date. We had oral arguments back on July 11th, which we talked about. And there was a motion to continue at that time. The judge denied it at that time. But now Bannon is back here, and he files this renewed motion to continue the trial based on directly relevant developments that we learned about today. He says earlier today. And so we're incorporating all of this stuff into our motion. And they're talking about the event that took place on the 12th. That was 2 days ago on Tuesday. At the time that oral argument was held, the defense attorneys knew that there was an additional televised hearing coming up. So Bannon's oral arguments here were on Monday, but the fake committee hearing was on Tuesday. So they came back now. So after the hearing on Tuesday, they filed this motion on Wednesday and they said, Judge, did you hear what happened on Tuesday? The defense learned today that during the committee, the hearing did indeed feature Bannon with a highly inflammatory video clip from Bannon's podcast, saying this was selectively edited for the most inflammatory effect and with a commentary that was accompanying to portray Bannon as a central player in the events of January 6. In her commentary, Representative Murphy emphasized evidence of telephone calls between Bannon and Trump in contact with him at key times related to the J6 event, with the implication that Bannon was a central participant in the incitement by extremists. That was the theme of the day's hearings. And so they go through and they actually take out some text excerpts here. Rep. Stephanie Murphy, she's reading from the teleprompter. She says, the next day on January 5th, the day before the attack on the Capitol, tens of thousands of people converged on Washington, blah, blah, blah. And then Murphy plays a clip selectively edited for maximum inflammatory impact, and they play a clip from Steve, right? Here are the links. He puts Dropbox links to all of them. And then they say there was also on a CNN special report, they also say the defense learned that on Sunday night, July 17, 2022, the night before Bannon's trial is scheduled to begin, so that's coming up on Sunday, during the time of intense targeted publicity from the committee hearings, CNN is planning to run a 1-hour special documentary called Divided We Fall, featuring Steve Bannon. So don't tune into that one. The special report on Bannon, broadcast on the eve of trial, is being widely promoted with a trailer and special announcements by CNN hosts. This is like their Super Bowl. They're like, oh my goodness. I know probably many of you don't spend as much time on Twitter as I do, and that's a good thing. Don't, right? It's really not worth it. But anyways, the point is, a lot of people are giddy and gleeful over this Bannon trial. I mean, if you thought that people were gleeful over Michael Sussman being acquitted, you don't even know what's coming, right? Because Steve, if I have to be honest with you about this, if this trial goes forward and it's looking like it is, Steve Bannon is going to get convicted, right? I don't think there's any way out of this. The cards are stacked. Right? There's like 7 dealers. They're all in on it. All of them. Nothing you can do about it. The game is rigged. Now, CNN is like they know there's a victory coming. They're so demoralized by their failed presidency and their failed company that this is going to be like a Super Bowl level event for them. And I don't even know what Brian Stelter is doing over there. I can't even imagine. It sounds awful. But for example, here's a CNN of a teaser program coming. Oh, Jake Tapper too. Jake Tapper is like really emotionally devastated by this whole ordeal. He got into it with Boris Johnson. He was even making fun of him. Boris Johnson was like, Jake, will you calm down? You're acting like you're, we'll just leave out the adjective. Jake Tapper says, a quick programming note, join CNN's Drew Griffin for a new investigation into Steve Bannon and his master plan to reshape the U.S. government and the Republican Party and indeed the United States. The CNN special report, Steve Bannon, Divided We Fall, begins 8 p.m. Eastern on Sunday evening. CNN links, documentary links, all of that stuff, right? And so they go through and they play the rest of the litany of what they're doing in the Bannon broadcast. They say, while the court has indicated that it intends to address all potential risk of prejudice from pretrial publicity through the voir dire process, this means that the judge is recognizing that, yeah, there are some pretty serious, pretrial publicity problems here, but we're going to try to deal with that through jury selection. We're going to ask people, have you heard about this? Do you know who Steve Bannon is? And they say, the defense is saying, Judge, look, I know that that's your plan, but with all due respect, and I mean with all due respect, that process cannot and will not remedy the overwhelming prejudice that we see here. This hour-long documentary, this broadcast being shoved down everybody's throat from the committee, there's just not enough. We understand, Judge, that voir dire might help a little bit, but it's not going to cure the very serious risk of prejudice. And so for all those reasons that we set forth in this motion and previous motions, we believe that Mr. Bannon has a fundamental 5th and 6th Amendment rights. We urge the court to reconsider this matter anew. The prejudice here is a function of these very recent developments. The committee hired a television producer. They want maximum impact on this thing. They want it to be inflammatory. That's the whole purpose. And so Mr. Bannon insists and respectfully requests this court continue the trial date to a future date and time. Now, that was submitted last night And so we know that, of course, that is not going to happen. Here is what it sounded like. We have the report coming in. Remember that these things are not allowed to be rebroadcast in any federal courts, from federal courts out to the public, just a general broad rule. And so we're going to go through, last time we followed along with Roger Parloff, who gave us the play-by-play from Twitter. Today, we're checking in with Scott McFarland. He's over with CBS. He's a congressional correspondent, and he was there covering the Steve Bannon proceedings. He posted this morning, 7:06 a.m. He says, Steve Bannon contempt hearings take place today. For the second time this week, Bannon skips attending in person. He doesn't have to, but the journalists yesterday, or on Tuesday, on Monday, were very unhappy that he wasn't there. Where's Steve Bannon? Why isn't he here? You know, this is a big deal. You know, he should care about this. He's going to go to prison, you know, and Bannon, like, doesn't care at all. He really doesn't care. He's like, your criminal charges have no power over me. Your stupid language has no power over me. Call me whatever names you want. Don't care. And he literally, the last time he was at court, he was like doing cartwheels. He doesn't care. Now, you know, that can be a bold strategy. I'm not going to lie about that. You know, sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't work. But the point is Bannon is playing the long game. He knows the Republicans are going to be in charge. He probably knows that Trump's going to be in charge soon. Doesn't care. So the media has been very unhappy about it, but Scott is not obviously one of them. He says Bannon and the defense argues that there are now additional inflammatory rhetoric. So they filed their motion to continue. They showed up in court today to argue it because they say Tuesday's hearings, the committee played the all hell will break loose comment from Bannon. Bannon's defense says that a forthcoming CNN special is going to be a problem, but the judge interjects. The judge says, hold on there, David. I read your motion. I saw it come in yesterday. But I want to ask you about jury selection. The judge asks, couldn't attorneys simply ask jurors if they saw the CNN program? Like, yeah, there's a CNN documentary, but did they see it? Just ask them if they saw it. The Justice Department, the prosecutors come out and they say, you know, Bannon's latest request to delay the trial, it's all made up. The prosecutor says that we already agreed upon the jury selection process and we're going to ask the jurors whether they know about this. Prosecutor seems confident that there are jurors who have not watched the hearings. Can you believe that? There are jurors who have not watched the hearings. And, you know, you might be thinking that's impossible. But when you think about it, like most people aren't watching the hearings. So maybe it's true. Based on these pretrial hearings, it appears that Bannon is going to be able to argue to the jury about whether the October 14th deadline was malleable or negotiable. Okay, so saying that they're sort of hashing out some of those arguments. Other defenses have seemingly been blocked when a judge denied other motions from the Bannon defense. Prosecutors kick back hard, saying it would create perverse incentives if subpoena deadlines are malleable. So Bannon's lawyers are saying, we're going to try to move these dates around. You know, I didn't really have to show up by October 14th. Prosecutors are saying that's not true. It's hard deadlines. Prosecutors don't want Bannon to be able to argue that and prevail that the deadlines of subpoenas are negotiable, saying that that would make these things very broad. Judge says, yeah, you know what? Sorry, Steve. That's not a strong argument for Bannon to argue. And Bannon defense is now quoting the committee and the representative named Benny Thompson from October 19th. He said something 5 days after the deadline. We continue to expect immediate compliance from Bannon. Oh, do you see what that means? This is smart defense work. They referenced a statement from Benny Thompson after the non-compliance. So Bannon was supposed to be there on the 14th. He didn't show up. On the 19th, Benny Thompson says, we continue to expect immediate compliance from Bannon. That means that according to Benny Thompson, who's a representative, in fact, the representative, he's the chairman. He's from that sentence there is making it sound like there is no violation, right? So we expect immediate compliance. So on October 19th, if Bannon picked up the phone and said, yo, Benny, I'm ready to come and testify. What can I do? How do I get there? What's happening? And he shows up and now Benny sits there and now they're having a conversation. It sounds like from Benny's own statements that he would say that that is not, in fact, a violation of the law because he's expecting immediate compliance. And so therefore they're saying that these are valid, malleable dates. The defense attorney, David, says he expects to continue to file legal motions about inflammatory pretrial publicity and seeks a delay. The judge says, yeah, you can keep filing them all you want. I don't care. Scone indicates that he's trying to make a record just for the Court of Appeals, right? So the judge is denying, no continuance, trial's going on Monday. And he says, well, look, Judge, I mean, every time I see something that I think is going to impact our trial, I got to let you know, okay? And the judge says, no problem at all. File him away. Prosecutors have already pushed back on Bannon and his argument about the documentary. Fed says the committee is hearing it's aired during a work day when jurors work, right? So nobody's watching it. That's hilarious. The prosecutors are saying nobody's watching it because they're all at work. Bannon's defense is arguing that even if one prospective juror mentions the Bannon documentary, the entire rest of the jury pool would be tainted. The judge already stated that, nope, it's going to be separate, so they're going to have them cordoned off, so that's not going to be a problem. Judge takes a recess, comes back out, and denies Bannon's motion to continue. Trial is going to take place on Monday. He says, yep, there are concerns for publicity, but jury selection and voir dire are going to be the remedy. If we can't find 14 jurors, then we'll delay it. But if we can find 14 jurors, trial is going forward. Judge leaves the door open for the possibility about the Bannon decision to testify, and he's going to make a decision on Monday. So that's it. Trial is starting. Jury selection begins on Monday. Don't think they're going to make any changes over the weekend, so that is going to be happening. Now that we know that, we can take a look at some of the jury questions, which Miss Julie Kelly over from Twitter, at Julie_Kelly2, posted some of this, and she's doing great work on all of these topics. She's a must follow on Twitter if you haven't already. She got some of these case-specific questions, and they say this, like, this is what the jurors are going to be getting. This juror says, jurors, case-specific questions. Have you so you're a juror, right? Like, you're going to be answering these questions on Monday. Dear juror, put yourself in their shoes. Have you, a family member or anyone close to you, ever worked for the U.S. House of Representatives, Senate, or government agency? Probably not. I'm in Arizona, so hard no. But if you're in D.C., it's like a hard yes. Have you, a family member, ever been subpoenaed or asked by Congress to testify or provide records? Maybe not. Have you, a family member or anyone ever close to you, been required to provide testimony for any matter? Probably not. Okay, so 10, 11, 12 looks like maybe those are clear. You will hear and see evidence in this case that the defendant, Bannon, was subpoenaed for testimony related to the J6 committee attack on the Capitol. Have you heard, seen, or read anything from any source about the Select Committee or its investigation? Probably going to be a hard yes on that one, right? If you're familiar with the committee, do you have any beliefs or opinions about the committee that might make it more difficult for you to be fair or impartial to the government or the defendant? Probably, right? That's kind of why you'd watch it. The Select Committee has been holding hearings at the Capitol. Have you seen or read coverage about those hearings? And we're in Washington, D.C., remember. Do you have any beliefs or opinions about the defendant, Stephen Bannon, or anyone associated with him that would make it difficult for you to remain fair and impartial to both the government and the defendant throughout the trial in this case? And as you sit here, do you have an opinion about Bannon's guilt or innocence in this case? Could you get on this jury? I don't think so. I couldn't get on this jury. No way. Yeah, I've got a lot of strong opinions. Yeah, I've watched a lot of this footage. So do you think that more people or less people in DC are watching the January 6 hearings than the rest of the country? A lot more. Actually, in fact, I think I saw a poll from Rasmussen that did a geographic poll, and it said that one of the most important issues in DC was the January 6 riots, whereas everywhere else in the world and the country, nobody cares about it. So looks like Bannon's trial, it will be going forward. We're going to be covering this in depth. I still haven't quite figured out the schedule for how quickly I'll be able to get the transcripts. I've got contact that has been made, and so we're going to piece that together, but that's starting Monday. And so my plan is hopefully to get them the same day, sort of at the same pace that we got the Michael Sussman trial, which those came in a little bit later, right? We got those at about 4 or 5 o'clock my time, which would have been like 6 or 7 p.m. East Coast time. So we're going to try to get those and just read through them as they come in. We're going to do that starting next week. So we'll see how that goes. Now, that's the Steve Bannon update. Now, lastly, but not leastly, as I said, now I think I may have understated this at the start of the show, But this gentleman here, Alex Stein, primetime number 99, always on the grind, he may have cracked this entire case open, wide open. And it's just as juicy as can be. He specifically, let's just break this down a little bit. As I mentioned at the start of the program, AOC is now openly talking about January 6th being an inside job. Now, I know that many of you here have had hints and indications of that. A lot of people sort of on the right side of the aisle have, had questions about this. Ever since the beginning, I've had a ton of them. But we haven't really seen a lot of cracks on the left of people who have questions about the official narrative. They sort of just take the official narrative and run with it, right? It's people like Adam Kinzinger, who I know is a Republican, but not really. It's people like Liz Cheney, who I know is a Republican, but not really. They're going to be gone. But then, right, they are sort of caricatures of the Democrats, and they do exactly what Raskin and Thompson and Zoe Lofgren and all of the others do, but they just sort of amplify it up a little bit, But the point is they all just take that official narrative and they just gobble it up. That's just who they are. So now to see AOC and to see people on the other side of this thing starting to say, wait a minute, remember how there were tons of footage of evidence of officers and others on 1-6 supporting the insurrectionists, but then everyone decided it was too risky to investigate them? What happened to that? Very good question. Now, before we play this video, right, I want to show you that this video is actually her, that it's later on in the evening. Okay, so this is the sun is out, the sun is down, it's nighttime, but take a look at that dress. Now, this dress, right, this is the same dress, I do believe, as something that happened earlier in the day involving Alex Stein, primetime number 99, this gentleman right here. Now, we're not ready to watch this video quite yet because we need context, but you can see that this is the same dress it looks like that AOC is wearing. And so what I think happened is that primetime number 99 started this whole series of events that led to AOC revealing that she thinks this was an inside job. So let me show you what I mean. This all started, before we get into this, who is Alex Stein? And we need some context for this before we play the video. But first of all, AOC has been one of these people. We've been living in this world of Supreme Court justice, sort of assaults, and they've been protesting outside of their houses, and they are throwing them out of Morton's restaurants. There are groups that are now promising to pay people money for showing up or for giving sightings of justices and things like this. And so AOC is somebody who previously posted this on Twitter. She said, the whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Activists take that discomfort with the status quo and they advocate for concrete policy changes. Popular support starts small and it grows. Now, to folks who complain, to folks who complain protest demands make others uncomfortable, right? This is the key line. That's the point. To the folks who complain that it makes people uncomfortable, that's the point. That's what she posted some time ago, December 2nd, 2020, right? So this is sort of her perspective on this topic. And this has been going on for a long period of time. Even very recently, people like Elizabeth Warren got asked questions like this one from the media. Is it okay to go harass Supreme Court judges? No answers.
Senator, an activist group is offering to pay people if they send in the locations of justices. Do you think that this has gone too far at this point?
Nice answer. You see that answer from her? Here's Elizabeth Warren. Do you think it's appropriate to be harassing Supreme Court justices? Listen to the sound of that car door as her response.
Do you think that this has gone too far at this point?
There it is, car door. Apparently that's a no. Well, my point is, right, this is sort of the standard playbook of the Democrats. And so you take that, we put a pin in that. Being, protesting, shouting things at judges, shouting things like you're a Nazi or you're robbing women of their rights or you're a racist or you're a misogynist or you're a bigot or how dare you, you Nazi, right? Those types of things, right? You're hurting women, you're killing women. Those are all aggressive things to say to people, aren't they? And AOC says it's basically it's kind of cool to do that stuff because it's the point of protesting. It's to make people uncomfortable. Okay, so we take a pin, we put a pin in that one first. Then we also jump into the conversation from I don't know if she's the actual president or not or whatever, but Jill Biden, I think, is running more things than Joe Biden, but she's technically the first lady. And, there was a clip going around of her
where she was at this event. I think it was a Latinx is what she calls it now. She was at this event, and she was communicating about her admiration for the Hispanic community. And she said, "You guys make very good breakfast tacos here in San Antonio, and it's evidence of your diversity." It's a pretty boneheaded gaffe. It was a pretty bad statement. It wasn't even a gaffe. It was actually written into her teleprompter. She's reading from a teleprompter. But you saw the video, right? I don't need to play the video again, but I do need to play this one because it's slightly different. It adds a little bit. If you missed this, this is Jill Biden, the First Lady.
But we can't get those things on our own. Raul helped build this organization with the understanding that the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
Okay, so there you go. Okay, so that was a meme that was floating around. Now, look, you know, that's the vice, what's her name? What does she do? Oh, the First Lady. Yeah. Okay, now this prompted, you know, a whole Hispanic taco thing going on now, because we actually have some Hispanics who don't like to be called tacos. In fact, here's two of them right here. Here is Senator Ted Cruz, and we also have another Hispanic, goes by the name of Marco Rubio. They're very unhappy about this.
Of ice cream. The Biden White House has time to write speeches at something called a Latinx conference. I don't know what that is.
Latinx.
Where they very kindly called Latinos tacos.
Taco, I know.
Well, Marco and I both appreciate being called tacos. Thing to remember about that speech? That wasn't a gaffe. That wasn't Joe Biden going off script. Some White House operative sat down and typed into the teleprompter, "This is a good idea to call Hispanics a bunch of tacos."
Yeah, a bunch of tacos. And if you look closely, I didn't see this the first go around, but holy moly, I think Marco Rubio almost starts laughing here. If you watch his facial feature, look at that. You see this little smirk. Watch this. Watch,
well, Marco and
watch
I
it.
both appreciate being called tacos.
He's trying not to bust up right there.
That wasn't a gaffe.
Oh, yeah. He says, "We appreciate being called tacos," you know? And so you go, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? All right. So now that we've got those two little nuggets in, okay, we've got the very racist first family in the White House, very racist. I mean, Joe Biden doesn't think that, I think he said that black people can't use fax machines or get IDs or something like that if they live in rural areas. It might have been Kamala. I'm not sure. They've said some really horrific things about all sorts of people, and they keep getting away with it. I have no idea why, but you know, this turned into a big hubbub. I mean, there was actually a National Latino Journalist Association that came out and they said, "Hey, Jill, you racist, stop calling us tacos. Okay. We have a very diverse diaspora. What's the word? I can't think, you know, the whole thing. It's just ridiculous." And so they're dunking on it. Now, we also have to know who the comedian is, I think he's more than a comedian. He's an activist. He's an advocate. He's Alex Stein, and I'm not even sure he's a he. Okay. Look, it's very complicated. He or she or whatever dynamic pronoun he wants to use, he's trying to make society better, and he's trying to fight for rights. In fact, here he was in front of Plano, Texas, advocating for equality. Here he is.
But you guys are going to sit here and you're not going to take me seriously. You're going to laugh at me. I'm trying to compete. And yes, I was born a boy. So what, guys?
Yeah.
This is 2022. It doesn't matter what you were born. We have Ketanji Brown Jackson even says, she doesn't even know what a woman is. So then I'm a woman. So that's what you guys have to do. If the Supreme Court justice is on my side, then why can't I get the same from the Plano City Council? That's the problem, is I come here and I'm still a victim of transphobia. Yet we have champions like my girl Leah, my sister, and she gets to win, but I don't. Why not? That's what I'm asking you.
It's a good question. It's a really good question. Why not? Why not? So I'd encourage you, this video goes on for another 2 minutes. I'd encourage you to go follow Alex Stein at Alex Stein 99 and watch the rest of that video, because it's quite good, you know. And he's asking some good questions. He's trying to ask city council members, define your policies for us so that we can get some clear answers. Okay. Now he's been going around all over the place, and he's been doing that in front of city council offices all across the fruited plains of America. And it's been absolutely hysterical to watch him rub their noses in it. But the point of that context is you need to know that before we watch this clip. Okay. We see that AOC says it's okay to protest people and to make them uncomfortable. We hear Jill Biden saying that it's okay to talk about Hispanic people in terms of tacos and, you know, different breakfast foods. And we know who Alex Stein is and what he's doing to public officials to hold them to account. Now that we have it, let's take a look at this one. This is the actual interaction that came up when he was outside of Congress meeting with AOC. This is the video, and we're going to see what AOC had to say in response to this after it concluded.
See, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very sexy. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
I want you to do a little selfie.
I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Woo, I love it, AOC. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So just so you can see exactly what happened. Okay. Right. She came over to him and she does this little selfie thing with him. You know, hey, right, whatever. And then she survives that very violent assault. She makes it up the congressional steps. Now you'll notice up here, there's this Capitol Hill police officer right here. You see him up there in the top left. Well, that is who AOC is very unhappy about, because she is basically saying that he should have stopped this white maniac who was accosting her with her big, with talking about her booty, really. I mean, he was talking about her booty and saying that she looks pretty good and all of that stuff. Now, pretty violent assault, pretty terrible. You know, AOC, of course, very unhappy about this. And so we're going to see how she responded to this. Right here, in fact. She posted this on Twitter. Actually, previously. Well, hold on a minute. So a couple things happened. First of all, she posted this and then she deleted it. Okay, so let me show you this one. This is at Alex Stein 99 on Twitter. He is a must follow as well. She posted this. This guy followed me up the Capitol saying, "Look at your juicy A. You Latina," and a bunch of other disgusting garbage in front of an officer who let him continue. So I'm just going to share this photo here so that there's no other protection. Ladies and anyone, avoid this guy, right? And she posted a big photograph of Alex Stein, number 99, prime time, always on the grind. And AOC is sort of, she's sort of adding a little bit to that conversation, isn't she? Because, well, hold on a minute. Let's listen to now her immediate reaction here. Here's AOC. She posted this on her timeline right after this tragic, horrific ordeal. Let's pay close attention to the language she uses. Okay, language. What is she saying specifically?
Hey everybody, I'm here in the Capitol. See this guy right there? Right there.
He's waving.
When I was walking up, he said, "Hey," right in front of a Capitol police officer. "Hey, here's this, look at that big ass, look at that big juicy booty.
What?
This Latina," like whatever, you know, all the bunch of racist, sexist stuff. And since nobody can do anything.
Hold on a minute.
I'm just telling you because this institution is not designed to protect people.
It's not designed to protect people.
And it's really hard and it's really sad that my only recourse is to just let you know about Instagram. It. But that's the institution we're in.
Okay, so that's a fake news. That's a fake news Instagram. I listened to this several times because I was laughing my little tail off. But here, pay close attention to what our friend Alex actually says. There's a word in there that AOC added that he didn't say.
See, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you.
Big booty Latina.
You, AOC, you're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress.
Very beautiful in that dress. Nice compliment. Very nice compliment. You look very beautiful in that dress.
You look very sexy.
Very sexy. Okay, it's a little forward.
Look at that booty on AOC.
Look at that booty on AOC. Okay, so we're tabulating the words. Look at that booty on AOC. Okay.
My favorite big booty Latina.
My favorite big booty Latina. Okay, all right.
I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Woo, I love it, AOC. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale.
Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale. Okay. But he didn't say that one word, though. He didn't say that one word. He didn't say juicy. That's right. Soul Warrior Vibe says he didn't say juicy. He didn't say juicy. Member of the public says big juicy booty. He didn't say that. AOC said that. She filled that in.
Hey, everybody. I'm here in the Capitol. See this guy right there?
Watch. She adds juicy.
Right there. When I was walking up, he said, hey, right in front of a Capitol police officer, hey, here's this, look at that big ass, look at that big juicy booty, this Latina, like whatever, all the bunch of racist, sexist stuff.
He didn't say juicy.
Look at that big juicy booty.
Nuh-uh. He didn't say that. AOC, you added that in there. You giving yourself a little bit extra adjectives there, aren't you? He said, yeah, it's nice. He said it was like a 7, and you said it's like a 9. Okay, he was giving you like a 7. Hey, it's a big Latina booty, big booty Latina. You said big juicy booty Latina. You turned it from a 7 booty into like a 9 booty, and he didn't give you that 9. You added that in your own. You're trying to give yourself a little bit extra credit. Can't do that. Not appropriate. So you can see, that poor Alex really sort of got her rattled on that one. And she was still thinking about this later on in the night. She goes back home and she's sort of sitting there in the same dress, and she's meandering around to her Instagram audience. And here's what she had to say.
I think the thing that was so crazy about that incident
is
not even that it happened, but that it happened on the Capitol steps right in front of a Capitol police officer. And this dude was engaged, like this wasn't about a political opinion, protest, or anything like that. He was engaged in very clearly sexually threatening, aggressive behavior.
Wow. Sexually threatening, aggressive behavior. Whoa.
Right in front, on the Capitol steps in front of an officer. And he wasn't even asked to take a step back. Like, this officer was just cool with it.
I actually did have a question about that. Like, can you get up to Congress people that closely? I don't know how he got that close. I've been to the Capitol building, and I don't think that I could ever get that close to a congresswoman, but I'm glad that he did, because, he's a big fan of AOC. She's got a big Latina booty, but not juicy. She said that, not him.
Really just can't help but think about all of that footage and evidence that we saw.
Wait a minute. What now? Wait, okay, so she's still meandering on. It seems like Alex Stein kind of started something here. She's talking about one Capitol Hill police officer who didn't stand up for her. Now she keeps going. Let's see what comes next.
Really just can't help but think about all of that footage and evidence that we saw the day of all these Capitol police officers helping and being sympathetic to the insurrectionists on January 6th. And everyone just decided it was too politically difficult to deal with. So they all just brushed it under the rug. And to this day, there has never been an investigation into that. Never.
Wow.
So as a result, we have no idea which officers are safe to be around. We have no idea if any of those officers and the ones holding massive weapons were with that crowd, or if they weren't.
Okay, so first of all, let's pause here for a quick minute and just interject here. Do I kind of agree with AOC saying that there was some very funny business going on there inside the Capitol? Yeah, maybe like it seemed like people were tapping other cops on the shoulder and saying, let him in here. We've got video of that. There's video of it. So I think she's onto something about that. Now, because she is AOC and, we have to be, careful here. She's only halfway there. She's only halfway there. Yeah, there was some funny business going on, but her justification, her belief as to why it was happening is off.
She's saying that they were going to take over America, basically, right? That the Capitol Hill police were just going to let them in. And if they got let in, then they were in charge of the country, I guess. Whereas the rest of us who actually know how this works, we know that getting the podium doesn't mean you control America. You don't have, it's not how it works. You know, there's more to it than that. Just controlling a building for a few hours is not enough to control the entire country. So the rest of us were speculating that maybe there was an alternative motive, an ulterior motive for allowing things to get out of hand, for allowing Donald Trump, or for encouraging or creating a situation that made Donald Trump look bad. Either you let him create a situation that turns into a pressure cooker that he can't manage and you say, see what you did, or you encourage that along. You hurry it along. You put people like Ray Epps down in there and you never charge them with crimes, even though they committed the same conduct that other people who have been charged with crimes have committed. And the list goes on and on. Now, AOC is even asking questions about it.
But if you raise questions about that, or if you don't feel safe, it's construed as you attacking the entire institution of public safety. Riddle me that. Riddle me that.
Well, yeah, she's going to be mowing on that one for a while.
A lot of that show up, not just in our politics now, but even the State of the Union. Because now both parties are in a contest of how much money they can shovel in this system without critically holding any of it accountable. It is dangerous.
Okay, right? And she's really thinking about this. So our last clip from AOC before we jump into your questions and your comments coming up next, right? This is where she's back outside the Capitol building now, and she's talking to the media about this, right? In addition to her Instagram following, here she goes.
These insurrectionists.
Like Antifa?
And that there were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that. And then to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened.
What about Antifa?
I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open.
Very clearly sympathetic and opening the doors wide open. Did you hear that? Why are those people not being charged? Who are those people?
And then to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened.
What about Antifa?
I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that. And I'm supposed to sit here and pretend like none of that ever happened. And then right afterwards, you have a massive, you just have this idea that throwing money at that problem is going to make it go away without any accountability. And so this is where these things are breaking down. Okay. We're not safe. And it's not just about members of Congress not being safe.
Okay, so she's talking about her not being safe and about the various people who are there all being sort of uncertain about how they can survive because the insurrectionists apparently have people on the inside who were letting others in. And, that is AOC for us. So we covered a lot of ground here today, my friends. We covered AOC, and I think Alex Stein, number 99 prime time, blew the lid off this. Now AOC is team non-narrative, right? Team alternative theory. She's a conspiracy theory, I guess, like the rest of us. We also learned more about Ray Epps. New York Times is in full damage control mode, saying that Ray Epps is just this innocent victim who got caught up in a big problem. Revolver, Darren, Beattie, and others are covering that in depth. And we did a pretty deep, pretty quick update on Steve Bannon. There was a final pretrial conference that took place today. We've got jury selection questionnaires that are now available, and the motion to continue the trial denied until next week. And so now it is time, my friends, to see what you have to say about all of this and more. We're going to start on YouTube today with a couple quick super chats. Alan Bothwell, no question, but a super chat. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate your support here. Oil Smoke Jones says, is there a legal mechanism to abolish a court district that is blatantly politically biased consistently over a long period of time? Just wondering. And thanks for the great work. Yeah, there is, Oil Smoke. This is a very good question. And in fact, there was a candidate who ran on this some time ago. Newt Gingrich did that. Newt Gingrich said that Congress has the latitude to establish the jurisdiction of the judiciary. So who establishes the judiciary? Congress does. They can delete circuits or add circuits. And so Newt Gingrich actually wanted to get rid of the Ninth Circuit. That was part of one of his campaign promises when he was running for president. I think that was back in, was it 2008?
Yeah, was he running against McCain maybe? I can't remember. Cruise Vet says, thanks for covering this. If J6ers accept plea deals, do they lose the ability to appeal? Yes. Could they be pardoned in the future? Yes, because yes, they could. So a president could pardon all of them in the future. You lose your ability to appeal if you plead guilty because you have pled guilty. You're sort of accepting guilt. You can't turn around and appeal. You can do what's called post-conviction relief. So let's say, for example, I made a video about this on the R&R Law Group channel. If something new comes out, let's say, you were charged with shoplifting and you pled guilty to shoplifting, but we fast forward a year and the cop comes out and it turns out that the cop was responsible for making up a bunch of fake shoplifting charges and you think that yours might be one of those. Well, you might be able to reopen your case and say, had I known that the cop was a liar, I wouldn't have pled guilty, and these are new circumstances, and it changes things. And so there's a mechanism that exists there for that, but it's not an appeal. Larry 1 over on Rumble Rant says AOC is now officially a terrorist and a Putin puppet. Putin puppet, LOL. Yeah, I think she's an insurrection. I mean, she's almost like an insurrectionist. She doesn't believe what Liz Cheney's doing. She doesn't believe what Benny Thompson's doing. She thinks there's more to this story. She might be on our team on this issue. Here we have another one from Jenny B. Says, for 5 pages of the Bannon transcript, I love the man and glad you're following the trial, giving your unbiased legal expertise. I'm glad he's got good lawyers. Yeah, we're going to cover that in depth. And thank you for the support. Those transcripts are $1.20 a page. $1.20 a page. So thank you for that, Jenny B. I appreciate it. John McGarvey says another one. Sup, 10 more pages. Thank you for that, John. I posted the last big one was $231. The last big one that I posted on Locals, which I make them when I post them on Locals, they're open to the public, but you can't post a PDF on YouTube. So come over to Locals and you can get the PDFs and the transcripts there if you would like them. We also had another one from Lava Java Lava says, I publicly apologize to Lean. Well, I'm not sure what that was all about, Lava Java Lava, but it sounds like a nice apology, and I'm glad you two are resolving your problems here in our community. It's beautiful. Lanko says, if you don't know if you're going to vote for me or Trump, then you isn't a taco. Some old man that got 81 million votes for POTUS, LOL. Which is true. You could, yeah, if you don't vote for me, you're not a tamale, right? Or one of those things. Thank you, Lanko. Yeah, that was Joe Biden saying, you're not black if you don't vote for me. Right? Racist. They are racist. GN says, tonight's show is brilliant. I see what you did here. Your big, juicy legal mind. Well, thank you. Yes. So, yeah, AOC, it's going to be hard to think about her without that big, juicy Latina booty. That's for sure. Alex Stein sort of poisoned the well on that one. Bear Ashby is here, says, thanks, Rob. Thank you, Bear. Appreciate your support on that one. And 63 Rambler says, someone should compare Epps and Straka treatment by the DOJ. Totally. Yeah. I mean, there are whole groups of individuals who are continually under the gun because of what's taking place from the committee, from the DOJ prosecution, and the list goes on and on and on. And so thank you for those. We'll come back over to YouTube, but let's jump over to Locals and see what we've got here. The Antikiss started us off. He says, Rob, that is one booty that's a definite pass. The Antikiss is not down with the AOC big juicy Latina booty. Says, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing anymore being sapiosexual. Oh, well, the Antikiss. Well, that's very... Well, thank you for sharing that. Says, my attractions certainly have been starved for a long time. The Antikiss is frustrated. Says, if my life depended on finding someone attractive, I'd be in a ditch starving right now. The Antikiss. The Antikiss. A sapiosexual, right? That's somebody who thinks, it's intelligence, right? That really turns you on. Intelligence is very attractive. I don't disagree with that. Thank you for sharing that, Vientikiss. And he also posted this meme. Grouchy old cat lady here shared this article from YouTube, and sharing the video and then different reactions from across the Twitter fruited plains. Cernovich said, "You threw a peace sign and you laughed it off, as you should have. Meanwhile, a bodega owner in your city is being wrongfully prosecuted by a Soros DA. Yet nothing from you on that one. Thank you for that." Miss Lucky says,
that AOC is a big girl now. She just needs to walk away. She might now know how other people feel when they're being hassled, like the Supreme Court justices at their home or their restaurants. Instead of feeling sorry for herself, she should promote positive conversation to others. Yes! Thank you, Miss Lucky. That is true. That's a reasonable way to handle these situations. She should have just given the peace sign and said, yeah, get out of here. Whatever, loser, get out of here. Right? And the whole thing would have just gone underwater. Now Alex Stein, prime time number 99, is going to be like, he's part of the popular, he might have saved America by shattering the facade on this J6 hearing by pointing out her juicy booty. So we have another one from Bossy B. Says, wasn't she a Hooters girl? No, I think it was another bar or restaurant or something like that. I don't know. Let's see what else we've got over here on Locals. Doing a quick refresh before we... Me Loves Dog says, sorry, but she put on that tight dress for what reason? Why'd she put that on? She is such an airhead, a dangerous, lying airhead. That came in from Me Loves Dogs. And I haven't seen you, Me Loves Dogs, in quite a long time. It's good to see you back here. Let's see what else we've got over on Locals. We are doing a refresh and scrolling all the way down. We've got here, Tessa Michelle says, the New York Times, proving again that lying is not a sin in the religion of the left. And thanks to AOC for giving demonstration of how a Me Too accuser can get started. Yeah, I mean, did you see Alex Stein violently and aggressively assaulting her with his words? Unbelievable. Thank you, Tessa Michelle. This one came in from Vienticus. Cheeseburger, Rob. Cheeseburger. Also, I'm blaming you for the fact that I forgot to put bacon on it. Why? Because reasons. The heresy of neglecting the heavenly food deserves flagellation. What did I say? Hamburger? Oh, yeah. I said Vienticus is having a hamburger. He said cheeseburger. What kind of American are you if you don't have cheese on your hamburger, right? I think that's what Vantikis is saying. Thunder7 says, it sounds delicious. Maybe a hamburger for dinner tonight. I don't know. Thunder7 says, Epps is shown on video inciting the crowd as you have played on your show. His testimony was made private and not under oath. FBI would not comment on whether any FBI agents or arrests were there on J6 and what role they played. People are not as stupid as the fake news believes. The vast majority of the public know that Epps is working for the feds. And when the GOP take over in November, they can bring him to account and prove who he really is and what his nefarious plans were for January 6th. Hold the line, patriots, is what Thunder7 says. It's a good comment. Yeah. I mean, we covered all of that. Ray Epps is a very shadowy figure. See Reed with the wood chippers memes. Former LEO says it might be interesting to file a FOIA request for his tax returns and Social Security benefit payments. Who are we talking about? Ray Epps? Well, I'm sure they're nice and protected by those feds. Ed J says Ray Epps may be a lot of things, FBI, DEA, whatever, but one thing for sure, he is not a victim. Further, he doesn't care about the real victims that are held in the DC gulag. Some of them were his friends. Typical of these agents of three-letter agencies is to be a goon doing the dirty work of corrupt politicians. No spine, no integrity, and never tells the truth. I believe that's what Epstein is, or what Epps is. I'm saying Epstein. I believe that same thing for him. No integrity and never tells the truth and no spine. Yeah. Another one came in from Heather. 3 girlies is here. Shout out to Heather, and the youngest of the girlies says, Rob, maybe he isn't a Fed. That doesn't mean he didn't rat people out like the Oath Keepers. He turned over, quote, evidence in order to get off. Yeah, could easily be the case. It's called a free talk in the law. They do this a lot with gang charges and things. Hey, why don't you come in here and tell us all about your gang? We'll let you go free. And there's actually sayings in this in the law. So give 3, go free, right? You give me 3 people, you go free. And a lot of that is sort of not supposed to be how it works, but it is. I mean, it took how long for them to charge the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys? It took a year for feds to come out with the charges. So he could have gotten all this information over and not be a Fed. He was just proactive enough to call them and give them the information. No matter what, he sounds like a dirty rat. Yeah, he is. I mean, I can't, there's no evidence that he's officially a Fed, and maybe he's not, but there's enough to say that he was a huge part of the problem. They got a very
interesting look by the FBI, such that they put him on the most wanted list and he's not on there anymore, and they have not explained why. So until they do, we as the public can fill in the gaps, and we don't just get to listen to their stories because they publish a puff piece in the New York Times that is trying to dissuade people. Thunder7 says, totally off topic, Rob, but just wanted to give my condolences, as do I, thank you for reminding me about this, Thunder7, to the Trump family at the loss of Ivana Trump, who died at 73 today from a heart attack or an aneurysm. It was totally unexpected. Children are naturally devastated. Ivana was not a politician, but a public figure. I hope the fake news doesn't exploit this to smear DJT. Let them mourn in private and rest in peace, Ivana. And there are already people who are being rotten about this on Twitter. There's a Twitter account called Occupy Democrats, I think. And they're being just terrible about it. And, you know, it really is a reprehensible thing, I think, to be disgusting to people in death, because we're all going to be there. And I think we all, you know, can sort of lay it out there on the field. But in death, there is there's opportunity for good sportsmanship after the game's over. Well, you know, nice. I disagreed with you, but okay. I'll see you on the other side. Here, former LEO says we should start a GoFundMe page for purchasing a backup system for the federal government. How about they subpoena the source text from the providers? Did they also get deleted by accident? From former LEO, talking about the text that were deleted from the Secret Service. Miss Lucky is here, says, Sergeant Bob says, the fact is that the government has unlimited prosecutorial resources. The protesters pleading guilty mostly only did this because they are average people without the ability to spend huge amounts of money to fight the charges. Disgusting political prosecution. Yeah, it is. Look, these are the same Democrats that will scream about, you know, bond and bail and about the prosecution of poor people because they can't get judges and they just plead guilty so that they get let out of custody so they can just close the case and move on with their lives, even if they did nothing wrong. Right. And so AOC would say that, right? She'd go into a community where a bunch of people of color, to use their language, right, are being incarcerated. She would say this is all wrong. But if it's Trumpers, if it's a disfavored political class, then that type of injustice is just overlooked, right? There are people there that can't afford lawyers that have pled guilty to things that they didn't do, pled guilty to crimes that Ray Epps has not been charged for. Why? What is the distinguishing factor? We don't know. It is a political prosecution. It is disgusting. Vianticus says, Rob, I see a lot of people readily hating on Ray Epps, but I have questions I want answered. It seems most likely that the guy is a Fed, but I'm not ready to rule out other potential reasons. The case where the FBI was trying to turn a known schizo into a terrorist is still ongoing. They were talking to him outside outside his parents' knowledge, trying to give him a car when he can't drive. Also, I think try to give him a fake bomb, he says. There may be a similar situation here. Maybe Ray Epps just needed the money, or there's a few other reasons I can think of offhand. The point I want to make here for people is to be focused on what you know and what you need to know. The whole good guy, bad guy things come after, not before. Otherwise, you're the same thing you claim to be fighting against. That's from Vianticus Prime in the house. We had another one from former LEO. It says Bannon should invoke his right to protection from self-incrimination, known as taking the fifth. Well, the problem is I think that he wants to testify, right? He wants to actually make his voice heard because nobody's been given him the opportunity to do it. Thunder7 says, Hillary here. Hey, Rob, Secret Service should have contacted me. I'm the queen of deleting emails. Says, I bleached the servers, smashed the Blackberries and laptops, and presto, 35,000 emails disappeared overnight. I'm sure they didn't do as good a job, and their emails will probably end up on 4chan. Pass the word on if you know anybody who needs email to vanish. I need the work. Hillary Clinton was stopping by to tell us how to evaporate emails, because Hillary Clinton, of course, what, like with a cloth? Okay. K-Rod says, AOC is my breakfast taco latinx. AOC is my breakfast taco latinx. From K-Rod. Jeff Fruck says, can't stick around for the stream. Just want to say love you, bro. Keep up the good fight. Not to call you dumb, but I'd be surprised if you grasp how significant your contribution is to the world. That's really nice, Jeff. I'd be surprised if you grasp how significant your contribution is to the world. Well, look, I hope you're not overstating it, right? You know, I hope you're not overstating it, Jeff. We're having a good time here. I think we're doing important work. I'm glad that you're here, and I appreciate your support. Facts Matter says, Rob, FYI, Viva is going to try to attend the Bannon trial. I heard that. Now, I have to confirm that. I have to send him a message or connect with him, because I did not I did not know that. I've had several people tell me that, which is awesome. He's in Vegas right now, right? I was checking in his stream earlier. He's in Vegas. I think he's there with Ron Coleman. He's there. I think James O'Keefe. There's a Freedom event there, which looks awesome. I didn't even know what was going on, but it sounds awesome. Viva's doing amazing work. That guy works his butt off. Jada says, thanks for providing some intelligent entertainment. Have not been able to stomach any MSM, Hollywood, or woke idiots on YouTube in years. I know, right? It's hard to find good stuff to watch. You know, we sort of put on the Netflix and we're scrolling through stuff and everything pops up. Are you interested in this month's current thing? No, I'm not. Or next month's. Former LEO says, isn't Dr. Jill a proctologist? Because she's married to a perfect AH. That's from former LEO. Wild Child was here along with Thunder 7. AOC stopped by after Hillary came by. AOC says, I was sexually assaulted and almost murdered today by Alex, and now I've re-triggered the PTSD I got while being violently attacked on January 6th when I was in a different building. No protester came near me anyways. I need a 2-year vacay over this. I'll be in Hawaii if anyone wonders where I've gone. Wild Child says, I'm traumatized by watching the video. Can I have a 2-year vacay? Former LEO says AOC actually approached him, not the other way around. He was first on the steps, and she came up and flashed the peace signs. She's full of it. Heather says Alex didn't say big ass either. She admitted she is a big ass. That's right. Did she say ass? Did she say ass in there? Wow. Big of her to finally admit it. That is a first step to recovery. Yeah, I've got to acknowledge it. AOC. She is a big ass. Is she admitting she is a big ass? Yeah. I'm AOC. I am a big ass. Not I am. We have another one from Kincaid says, evening, Rob. I hope all is well. AOC's team is smart. They can play both sides and infer what they need to at the moment. Look, AOC knows how to get attention. Okay. This is all, she's milking this too. If the left gets its way in relation to changing the voting age, this country will be in real trouble. The reduction of the strong, independent, critical thought is a double-edged sword seeking the heart of the nation. Or perhaps societal yokes. Either way, we may be left alone in a dark forest with only a nearly forgotten patented torch. P.S. I hope AOC's God money is fake for her soul's sake. What a miserable person. She may stumble into the Dem snake pit and show the world. LOL. Thank you. That came in from Kincaid in the house. Always good comments from Kincaid. Yeah, I think AOC does know what's going on. They know what she's doing, right? To go, I was assaulted by a white man screaming about my juicy booty. No, not appropriate. Here's another one, Miss Lucky. Sergeant Bob here. If you want a complete understanding of the history of the FBI and political blackmail, you must read J. Edgar Hoover, The Man and the Secrets. You will not believe what is documented and revealed. He was more powerful than any president. Years after Hoover's demise, could this culture still permeate the FBI? Illegal wiretaps, black bag jobs, anonymous letters to foster dissension? Read and decide yourself. It is over 700 pages, but worth it. Yeah, Sergeant Bob told me about that one like a while ago. I'm pretty sure I bought it. It's sitting in my queue. That sounds like a good one. Like I said, I'm reading... I listen to a lot of books simultaneously, so I could probably just start that one. What's the difference? Heather says, Alex has the freedom of speech and the Capitol isn't in charge of stopping that. And Alex did protest. He said that AOC likes to kill babies. He did. He said that. She isn't upset about killing babies, but had issues with being catcalled. So apparently she doesn't like feeling uncomfortable, right? She needs to grow up and stop sounding like a selfish, self-centered, petulant child. That was from 3 girlies in the house. And let's see what else as we wrap it up for the day. Oh, I can't put that one on here. Facts matter. I'm glad that I can't put that one on here. Facts matter. I can't put it on here. You're going to have to see what is going on Locals if you want to see that one. I can't put it on here. Resident Bedoin, how would Dr. Jill pronounce that word? I don't know what that word is, so I'm not going to say it. I don't know what that word is, so I'm just not going to say it. Resident Bedoin, another one from former LEO, is sharing the I Like Big Butts and I Cannot Lie song. Wild Type Mind says, my hypothesis, AOC detects that the J6 hoax is failing. Yeah, she's leveraging her anti-cop rhetoric to surreptitiously switch teams. I bet she will one day pretend she was as suspicious of J6 as the whole time. Yeah, maybe. Blue Fiend tells me that DC Comedy Club cancels the Alex Stein show. Are you serious?
Heather says, youngest girlie has been at summer sleepaway camp all week. She was kind of upset that you did not have a live show on Friday. I apologize. My heart is broken now. She was kind of upset you didn't have a live show on Friday. I feel what a loser I am. I told her that you had a meeting and that you had a really long day. It's true. I did. I was meeting with my business partner. We went until like 4:30 that day. And that's like zero showtime prep and all of it. So it's funny. We did. So I know that she's going to be excited when she gets home and can hear you live again. LOL. And of course, I will let you know that you shouted her out. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. 3 girlies. Youngest girlies, it's summer camp. It's summer camp season. You know, I used to have summer camp and I had a lot of fun at those places. So hopefully she's having a good time as well. And that's it over from locals. I've got a couple more that wrapped up here from YouTube. And let's wrap those up before we close out the day. Just Cause, who mods up the place, says, Rob, do you know about Lindsey Graham's ladybugs? LOL, chat wants to know. No, I don't think that I do. I think unless this has something to do with Lindsey Graham, isn't he sort of, doesn't he have kind of a history of something there that might involve ladybugs, whatever those are? There's something interesting there. He's an interesting guy. But no, officially, I don't know what it is. And at this point, I'm too scared to ask. Just Cause, thank you for that one. Dapper Dave says, we all know Bannon is not going to get a fair trial. That is true. We do all know that. Yeah, and if Michael Sussman was any indicator on this thing, you know, Michael Sussman, I thought was obviously guilty. And there are a lot of, well, there's a lot of statistics to show that prosecutions oftentimes are successful, especially in cases like that. Now, that obviously didn't happen there. He got totally acquitted because of the DC jury. The jurors like said to a reporter, there are bigger things to worry about. What is bigger than the insurrection for a bunch of DC jurors? I can't think of anything. And so my guess is that Steve Bannon is not going to get a fair shake. And I don't mean to say that to be pejorative to the judge, right? Like the judge is probably doing what he can, but the jurors, it's too one-sided. There's no hope. So I don't know what they expect to happen, but you can wager on this one. I think he's going to be found guilty on both counts. We have another one from Curtis Bartle, says Trump rally in Prescott on Saturday. Are you going? I am not going to go up to Prescott on Saturday, but I do know Trump will be there, and it should be a good time. It's, you know, I don't know how hot it's going to be honest. I was thinking, I saw that come through. You know, Arizona is really heating up in terms of politics. We had a debate between Blake Masters and this other Senate candidate, Lehman, and they're challenging the astronaut, Mark Kelly, who is sort of up for a full term now, and it's really, really getting hot. Governor Ducey came out and endorsed our governor candidate, or sort of the mainstream governor candidate, who's up against Carrie Lake, who's sort of the Trump candidate, and Blake Masters is a Peter Thiel candidate, who's also sort of a Trump candidate. And it's going to be very, very interesting, you know, to see how this goes. People are sort of speculating that maybe this is the canary in the coal mine. You know, how goes Arizona is how the rest of the country goes, because you've got this split now, right? Split out the Ducey and sort of mainstream camp versus the Trump camp. And if like a Ron DeSantis or somebody aligns with a Ducey, then you might see this bifurcation split, and how Arizona goes, it might show how the rest of the country is going to go. So would be very interesting to see. We'll have to unpack all of that. Dapper Dave came in, but Curtis, if you're going to Prescott, hope you have a good time, and shout out to all the Trump supporters up in Prescott. It's going to be beautiful. Dapper Dave says, it'd be funny if a group waves dollar bills at her at AOC. Yeah. So you look, they're banging drums outside of Kavanaugh's house. I guess go out to AOC's house with a stripper pole or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Women's right. I don't know what these issues are. I don't know what they're fighting about, but yeah, it's not, these things are escalating. That's for sure. But that, my friends, looks like it is it for us for the day. I want to thank you for all of your great comments and everything that you have sent in. And former Elio says, so you don't like MC Hammer. Was that MC Hammer? I thought, oh, I was thinking about the Sir Mix-a-Lot version. Well, I can't play it either way because we'll get a copyright ding on it. But that, my friends, was it for us for the show. I want to thank everybody who was a part of it and who sent in the great super chats. Quick reminder that if you want to be a part of the community, place to do that is at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We have our daily walk and talks that we put out almost every day, which is sort of the carrying on of the conversation. And those are a lot of fun. I posted one this morning where we were talking about, well, some of what we talked about today is sort of a little bit of a preview of it, but this is kind of what it looks like, right? Here's me sort of walking around the valley, walking around downtown Phoenix. And it's a little bit of sort of a different feel, a little bit different vibe. And so if you want to check that out, I appreciate your support, trying to be able to create a little bit more. And that's available at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or when you click join and join on the YouTube membership site right next to the subscribe button. We also have a law firm called the R&R Law Group, where I spend most of my time helping good people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases, and hopefully beyond that in their lives. We offer free case evaluations, anything, criminal speeding, DUIs, domestic violence, felony offenses, everything and anything in between. We help good people move beyond these difficult situations, and we love your support. Your referrals mean the world to us, because this is our mission. 480-787-0394. Thank you for supporting our work. Thank you to all the mods in the house who are modding up the place. Vienticus Prime, K-Bean, holding down the fort, Zulu Zeit, Just Cause, Lean, Playing Hooky, Geomancy Games, Lava Java Lava, all in there, holding down the fort. Thank you very much. I know that sometimes the chat can get a little bit squirrely. You guys do an amazing job and keep the community nice and orderly. And big thank yous to our Spotlight supporters. QSimple.com is a Spotlight supporter, so go please check out John's work. Chris Romero's in the house supporting us, David B3, and Dr. EMB, all of our Spotlight supporters. I'm very grateful for your support. And if you want to get some screen real estate on here and support our work and share a link or a social profile or whatever, if you contribute at the Spotlight level on YouTube or at an equivalent amount on Locals, send me an email and I will add you to the board here. But my goodness, we have covered a lot of ground, didn't we? And I want to thank you all for being a part of the show. Couldn't do it without you. It's better when we are here and doing it together. That is true. And so that's it, my friends, for the day. Final shout outs to our supporters on Rumble, Blue Fian, Larry 1, Nexit 2020, Anything is in the house, Hiker 7, Vienticus Prime, all chatting away. On Locals, let's see who we've got over here. Oops, I almost clicked the wrong button. But here we've got Vienticus, we have Tweak, B Spec, Bonnie Spec is in the house. Jumpin' Jeff says, where do you get your water in Phoenix? Well, I mean, it comes out of the faucet most of the time, Jumpin' Jeff. But I don't know where else I get it. Talbert's mom, Vienticus, and JC the Music Man are all here. And of course, on YouTube, Stace on the Case. Shout out to Jenny B. Kevlar63 is a member. All of our tremendous members there. Scott McClish, Andrew Richardson, Robert Goveas, Travis Matthew Polo is in the house. Shout out to Robert Gruler's Travis Matthews Polo is in the house, along with Christine Stalsholm, Stace on the Case, and everybody else. Thank you so much for being here, being a part of the show. We're going to come back and very likely to do it tomorrow. Sometimes my Fridays run long because they're sort of my buffer days, but we should be here tomorrow. Definitely have a morning video, so check that out if you're a member. Otherwise, my friends, have a tremendous evening. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here on the next one. Bye-bye.